Well, it's thought that William and Kate will be taking George, Charlotte, and Louis up to Balmoral to stay with King Charles and Camilla, Queen Camilla, for at least part of this summer. As we all know, they've had an extremely difficult year. Kate had abdominal surgery in January, and then, of course, announced that she was being treated for cancer. So we all know that they've been through a very, very difficult time. We've only seen the Princess of Wales, of course, a couple of times in recent weeks. First at Trooping the Colour, and then at Wimbledon. And she looked very much on the mend, and she looks in good form. But I'm sure that she's very much looking forward to a break up in Scotland and the fresh air up at Balmoral. I mean, this time of year, they would often, sometimes in the past, they might go to the Scilly Isles, and they might go away with her family, the Middletons. Been known to go to Mustique in the Caribbean. But I think they're going to want to spend time with the king, and he, of course, is recovering as well from his cancer treatment. So he would very much like to see them, and of course see the grandchildren, because he's growing increasingly close to George, Charlotte, and Louis, and we've seen that when they've been seen together. So it's incredible to think it's nearly 2 years now, 2 years in September, since Queen Elizabeth II died. Of course, Balmoral was one of her favourite places, and that's where she passed away, sadly, a couple of years ago. And she absolutely adored it there. It was probably her favourite place, and spent best part of 2 months there every year. And I think the king is carrying on that tradition. He actually lives at Birk Hall, which is on the Balmoral estate, but a stone's throw from the main castle. And that, of course, he inherited from the Queen Mother when she died in 2002. And he's much happier there, rather like he's happier really in Clarence House in London, rather than rattling around in Buckingham Palace. But obviously, he will throw open the castle, and plenty of rooms there for William and Kate to stay with their family. And there will be other royals going up there. I'm sure that Prince Andrew will be going up there, and the Duchess of York, with and possibly their daughters, being Eugenia and their children, and also Zara and Mike Tyndall. They'll be coming and going, and there might be some crossovers, but it's going to be a very relaxing time for William and Kate, and be interested to see what they get up to there. I mean, it's going to be extremely private, apart from the occasional paparazzi perhaps lurking in the heather, but we don't tend to see so many pictures as we used to. They tend to be left alone up there, and I'm sure that's how they'll like it. There's so much space up there, so the children can go off. I'm sure that George is at an age now where he'll be fishing, possibly in the River Dee there. But it's so much space up there. They can go off for picnics. They can go off for massive long walks, and just enjoy the fresh air, and enjoy the forest up there, and enjoy the freedom. So I think they might get a pony up there and start doing some horse riding if they're not already. And that's the sort of thing they'll get up to. So it's all the sort of typical traditional royal pursuits that they can enjoy if they want to up there. Yeah, they always that was a big thing with the late Queen. I think she really enjoyed them getting together and having dinner together, and they'd all congregate. And when she stayed up there, they would have something called the Gillies Ball, where members of staff would congregate, and I know of some amazing nights they had up there when they used to do dancing in full Scottish regalia, and the royals, the Queen and Prince Philip and the Queen Mother and others would dance the night away with, sometimes with the servants and the gillies, the people who were responsible, the gamekeepers, and all those sort of people who kept Balmoral ticking over. So I'm sure that the king will want to keep some of those traditions going, and whether Kate and William and their family are up there at the same time as any events like that, it remains to be seen. It might be that things are scaled down somewhat because of the king's treatment, and because of Kate's condition and treatment. So it might be that they're not going to go in for too many big events like that. But certainly that's a tradition that was for many years up there, and the king loves to wear kilts all the time when he's in residence at Balmoral. Not sure that William's that keen on wearing kilts. You don't see him very often in there. I don't think he's terribly keen on wearing them, but I'm sure if there's some sort of special occasion, he might be persuaded to put one on. And if they go to the Highland Games or anything like that at nearby Braemar, then it would look a bit odd if he wasn't in a kilt and the king was. But it's all fairly flexible. I think at the moment it remains to be seen. It depends when they go up there. and how long they stay. But certainly, I would expect them to be up there for at least a week, possibly two. It's quite traditional up there, and I know some people. I mean, it can get quite cold and drafty up there. The rooms are fairly sort of spacious, and the heating system up there is fairly antiquated. They do have lots of. There are obviously cottages on the estate, and I think sometimes other members of the family prefer to stay there. But so it can be a sort of fairly old fashioned in that sense. But obviously it's the summer, so it's not too cold, but it can be a bit drafty. And of course the other guests which tend to go up there at some point during these holidays is the Prime Minister and his wife. So famously, of course, once Tony Blair and his wife Cherie, she conceived their son Leo up there. So while they were staying with the king, so that will be something which the king will be doing if he's up to it. The late Queen Elizabeth, she used to have a lot of friends who used to come and stay, and certainly in latter years, some of the younger royals didn't go up there so much, and so therefore she would invite friends, and I'm sure that. But I think that Charles will want to sort of keep some of those traditions going. So I'm sure that he'll be inviting friends as well as the royals. But it'll be quite a house full, and as I say, there'll probably be some crossover with members of the family. You might get the Tyndalls, for example, up there and their three children. And Peter Phillips, of course, who was a great favourite of the Queen, he might be up there with his children as well, so, and possibly his new girlfriend. So they get on very well with William and Kate and their children. So if they play together, that'll be a great thing for the summer. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the king will stay at Burke Hall and with the Queen Camilla, but they'll obviously travel over for dinner and for events. And picnics, of course, famously, they'd go out to remote beauty spots. The Queen loved doing that. The late Queen loved going out to beauty spots. I'm sure he'll carry that on. She famously used to sort of wash the dishes sometimes and put her marigolds on and wash the dishes after a barbecue while Prince Philip was busily sizzling the sausages over a barbecue, and Princess Anne would do that as well. And I'm sure that they'll do that. They'll enjoy picnics out in remote spots, and they go into cabins where they've got a sort of small bar with a few drinks. And it's all very relaxed, but it's very, very traditional. And they do the same things pretty much every year. So I'm sure the king will want to keep that going. But it all again, it may be slightly scaled down. It may be slightly different depending on how he's feeling, depending on how Kate's feeling, what their energy levels are, because we mustn't forget that they're still in recovery. Well, Harry used to love it up there, but I don't think we'll see them. I think, unfortunately, sadly, the rift at the moment is quite bad. A report the other day that the king isn't really taking his calls at the moment. And I think that we know the situation with William is bad between William and Harry. So there's no way in which Harry and Meghan are going to come over and spend any time with them. And we saw that interview the other day, I think, with Harry, in which he said that he didn't feel able to bring Meghan back to this country for the time being, because he's still got this ongoing battle about their security. So if she's not going to come back, Archie and Lilibet aren't going to come back. So they're not going to be up at Balmoral. It's very sad that they're not that the king is not seeing those grandchildren. But maybe in the future there might be some sort of reconciliation. But I'm afraid at the moment it's a very bad situation, and I can't see any resolution to it in the near future. Well, I'm sure that Archie and Lilibet are growing up with on the West Coast with American accents. I'm sure they feel more American than they do British, probably. And they're going to have a completely different life if this carries on, if they're not going to spend any time over here. And I do wonder whether in a few years' time, when they're old enough to understand what's going on a bit more, whether they'll sort of start to ask questions and say, well, hang on a minute, why is it we're estranged from the royal family? Why is it we don't see our grandfather, the king? Why is it we don't mix with our uncle and our cousins? So it could be quite strange. It could be a problem for Harry and Meghan when the kids are older, if they don't resolve this. And at the moment, they're going to have totally different lifestyle, a totally different upbringing at different schools, and different values, different traditions. And they're going to miss out on all the things they could enjoy at royal residences. I mean, some might argue that they're outdated and they're not really missing out at all. But I think as they get older, they might start to ask questions.